the line. Let's talk about why I care about transgenderism, particularly the promotion of transgenderism in schools, in our public institutions, in our corporations, on social media. There is a number of reasons why we should be opposed to this. And for those of you listening, maybe this is something you do not know, or maybe this is something you're aware of. Let's find out. So we promote the idea of transgenderism as if somebody can just simply believe they are a different gender, go through the medical transitioning, the puberty blockers, the hormone blockers, the sex reassignment surgery, and everything is fine. Poof. You've gone through medical transitioning. This is the way to treat it. The society, once it affirms it and accepts it, everything is going to be fine. That is not the case. The suicide rates among the transgender community, one of the smallest demographics of our population, are abundantly and exponentially higher than they should be. About 80 to 82% of trans youth think about killing themselves and have reported to have thought about committing suicide. About 40% of those transgender young people actually make an attempt to end their lives, and a high portion of them are successful in doing so. Now, a lot of people will say this is because they don't have allies, this is because the society doesn't accept them, this is because families and schools don't accept them, and the culture in general is transphobic. Again, a word I disagree with. But when we account for these things and we look at societies that are more accepting than ever before of transgender people, the rates of suicide do not change. We can look at that in the United States. The United States has gotten more so each and every year accepting of transgenderism. You would think that as that acceptance raises, the suicide rates would fall and plummet in some cases. They are not. So clearly the treatment that we are giving to transgender individuals is not creating good outcomes. Now, for a side of progressivism and leftism that claims to care about trans lives, where are the people talking about this rate of suicide? And when they do, why are they simply attributing it to a society when the numbers do not reflect that whatsoever? So that's one reason why I care. Another reason why I care is that in research, 70% of young people who express gender dysphoria grow out of it. This is research done by a man by the name of Ken Zucker. You can look him up. You can look through all the studies that he's done. He ran a transgender clinic where he treated gender dysphoric youths, and in some cases even advocated that these gender dysphoric youths undergo medical treatment. So those were extreme cases. People that he felt like throughout their life and throughout adulthood were going to remain with this identity, remain with this affliction, and he allowed them to medically transition. However, in general, he deduced that young kids and young transgender youths who express this affliction outgrow it 70% of the time. That's reason number 2 why I care that we promote this on a social media platform that is full of millions of impressionable young people. Reason number 3, when we accept as a society that men can become women and women can become men, what does that do to our institutions? What does that do to our societal norms? What does it do to things like women who are in prison? Okay, let's talk about that. We have 2 women in a New Jersey prison who are now pregnant. Why? Because men stood up in their prison cells and said, I'm a woman, can I transfer over to the female facility? And they did transfer over to the female facility. I believe there's 27 transgender women is what we'll call that, in that New Jersey prison facility, and now 2 women are pregnant. We're seeing the same thing here in California, where men can identify as women and be transferred over, and women are being sexually assaulted. In one case, a female serial killer, a man who kills women, said, I'm a female, can I be transferred over, and has now submitted paperwork. This is what happens when we accept things that are not reality as a society. What about men and female sports? This has been brought to light with Leah Thomas, a man who is now swimming in a female category and beating out every other female, was ranked in the 400s as a man, is ranked number 1 as a female. You are beating out women of scholarships, going to college, getting certain jobs because we have prioritized and pedestalized transgender identifying people over biological women. Is that okay when they have a distinct biological advantage that is not X'd out by hormones and medical therapies? It's not okay. That's another reason why I care. You also have men taking points in female entertainment. And Dylan is one of these people who is auditioning for girl roles as an actor, actress, whatever you want to say at this point. Okay, that's another reason. Dylan has been offered a Tampax sponsorship when they will never be able to use Tampax. It is a female product being offered to somebody who is not biologically female. What woman could have gotten that sponsorship? That's another reason why I care. Let's mention a big one. It is a huge slap in the face to biological women to have a biological man say, I'm a woman, I'm going to just go get surgery up here, surgery down there, I'm going to put makeup on and put on female clothes, and that is what constitutes womanhood. Women listening right now, biological women listening right now, what does being a woman mean to you? Is that all it means to you? Is it just some superficial way that you can present to society and just tell people and that constitutes womanhood? And if so, where are the radical feminists on this one? Because apparently we've been experiencing patriarchy this entire time in our society, but that's womanhood, right? A biological man can say they're a woman. Have they been experiencing patriarchy their entire life because they've been a woman their entire life according to transgender ideology? Have they been a victim of patriarchy too? So if a white male who is supposed to be the bane of existence for radical feminists suddenly identifies as female, are they now a victim of patriarchy too? That is another question that I have for you, another reason why I care. We have parents coming to school boards crying their eyes out, talking to their school board administrations, saying, excuse me, my daughter or my son expressed gender confusion, suicidal ideation, depression, and anxiety, and came to you. And you did not come to me and express this. And now my child is attempting suicide. My child needs a psychotherapist. My child needs a psychiatrist. And you did not let me know. This idea that because our parents disagree with this ideology, that they should be shielded from it and not be told about their kids' identity and about their kids struggling with their mental health is a horrible reality that we're living in. That is another reason why I care. We have parents who are having their children taken away from them because their children express gender confusion and their parent doesn't want to run to a doctor's office and advocate for medical transition. And kids are being taken away from their parents. This is happening in the story of Ted Hidaka, which you can look up. Abigail Schreier did an amazing article on this. That is why I care. You have now children being told that gender confusion is a completely normal thing, that the treatment is simple and easy. They can go on puberty blockers, they can get hormone replacement, they can get sex reassignment surgery, and everything will be fixed, everything will be dandy. And what that is irreversible damage. It is irreversible. You do not go back after you have started these hormone blockers and hormone therapies for an extended period of time. In fact, they don't have definitive research on what that actually does to the human body because hormones have not been used in this way, at least not at the rate that they're being used now. So you have children who are effectively, if they go through full medical transition, being sterilized for the rest of their life. After we already went over research about how 70% of them change their minds. So we are now advocating as a society that kids know exactly who they are, know what gender they are, and that parents should blindly affirm it and put them under medical transition and create irreversible damage that sterilizes children. These are the discussions we're having as a society now. I wasn't having these discussions 5 years ago when I was on the political left, although we were talking about gender identity. We were not talking about it in relation to kids. And now that is the discussion that we are having. This is why I care. So for all the hundreds of comments that I got asking that and saying how it doesn't affect me, it doesn't affect society, it doesn't affect the world, that is how it affects it. And there are people who don't know that. And to those people, that is totally fair. You can feign ignorance on that and say, I didn't know it was causing all that harm. And now I do. Maybe I should reevaluate. But there are also people out there who are activists for this sort of gender theory who knew all of this all along and continue to advocate for it. You have organizations like GLAAD and the Trevor Project who say that we shouldn't even talk about detransitioners and that their stories don't deserve time because they don't represent and they're not reflective of the transgender community. These are the reasons we need to have these conversations. And the idea that because I don't know what it's like to question my gender, I can't have an opinion on it is ridiculous. There are so many things in this life that we will never understand. We will never be able to place our foot in that shoe, but we can give commentary on, we can read about, we can research. It's effectively the same as saying because you don't have a PhD or because you didn't go to college for this, you cannot speak on it. It is not a valid argument. It is not a logical argument in any way, shape, or form. And we have eyes. We have ears. We can see what's happening. We can see the detrimental effects. We can read about them. We can hear the word from the horse's mouth about fragility and vulnerability and depression and sadness. And we can come to conclusions on our own based on what's best for us, what's best for our communities, and what we feel is best for society, and have those discussions. And I think that's where my commentary ends for today.
Real quick, I'm seeing a few comments